while I was talking to this person, Dre approached, just grabbed me.
Dr. Dre once got away with very seriously harming a woman who was close to him.
A young black woman who they felt didn't know what she was talking about.
And the attack has stayed under the radar for years. But now the dark and twisted truth is finally coming out. Despite acting really aggressively towards someone with no means of defending themselves, Dre went on to become an uber successful, highly respected figure in the music industry. And he spent years and years brushing off the incident as relatively minor. As if that wasn't shocking enough, he didn't only hurt the one woman. Reportedly, he actually got physical with multiple women as he was on his way to the top of the hip-hop game. But let's start at the beginning. The main event I want to focus on happened in 1991, a year before Dre's debut solo album, The Chronic, dropped. After you hear all about the incident, you very well might wonder whether Dre actually deserved the praise he got for The Chronic. Not that The Chronic is bad, of course. It's an incredible record, but I wouldn't be surprised if you feel like he shouldn't have been given the platform that he was. The woman who Dre victimized in 1991 is named Dee Barnes. Dee was a hip-hop journalist at the time, and she was well established in the culture of hip-hop. She interviewed plenty of successful rappers and made a name for herself in the industry. One of those rappers that she interviewed happened to be Ice Cube. If you didn't know, Dre and Ice Cube were both members of the NWA in the late 80s. In 1989, however, Ice Cube decided to leave the group due to some disputes over payments. After he left, there was pretty serious beef between him and the rest of his former group mates. The remaining members of NWA wrote numerous bars dissing Ice Cube, so it's safe to say they didn't end things on good terms. So when Dee interviewed Ice Cube, it made Dre really upset. He didn't like that she was working with a man that Dre essentially saw as a traitor to their group. Even if it ended there, with Dre just being angry, it would still feel pretty unfair to me. I mean, Dee was a journalist. She wasn't only going to work with people that Dre liked. Unfortunately, however, it didn't end there. Dre's anger bubbled over into a very serious matter shortly after Dee's interview with Ice Cube. Dre and Dee were both in attendance at a Def Jam party in Los Angeles when everything went down. Dre saw Dee at the party and decided to let his anger out in a horrible way. You will not believe what he did. Even with all the hints I've given, the details are still shocking. Dee was mid-conversation with another guest at the party when Dre walked up to her, grabbed her by the hair, lifted her off the ground, and slammed her head against a brick wall. And, according to Dee, it wasn't one slam. He apparently threw her against the wall multiple times. It's utterly unbelievable that someone could do that in such a public space and still become a beloved figure in the culture. I mean, a lot of very influential people must have seen it happen. And yet, Dre still went on to have a super successful career. Apparently, a crowd gathered as it was happening, but no one was able to step in and intervene because Dre's bodyguard held him at bay with a firearm. The person Dee was talking to before Dre suddenly grabbed her tried to stop Dre, but instead got hit in the mouth with the bodyguard's firearm. And the person actually lost 2 teeth. What's completely crazy is that Dre's attack on Dee didn't end there. Dee stumbled to the bathroom, completely disoriented and unable to stand without holding on to the rail of a nearby staircase. And Dre actually followed her into the bathroom. Apparently, he felt like he hadn't punished her enough for, I'll emphasize again, her very reasonable career move. According to Dee, Dre continued harming her in the bathroom. During an interview with Wendy Williams, Dee declined to share whether Dre's attack became sexual assault in the bathroom. She told Wendy that she wasn't comfortable talking about everything that happened, which Wendy took as an implication that there was, in fact, a sexual assault in the bathroom. Obviously, Dre's actions were terrible either way. So, what has Dre had to say about the situation? Well, it turns out not too much, or at least not nearly as much as it deserves. During a 1991 interview with Rolling Stone, Dre completely downplayed the event, saying that he threw Dee through a door, which obviously doesn't begin to cover what he apparently really did, and he didn't seem to feel much remorse at all. He essentially brushed off the awful attack as not a big deal. After that interview, Dre didn't really acknowledge what happened at all for years. In 2015, however, there was a public outcry about the incident. The reason it came back to light after nearly a quarter of a century was because of the movie Straight Outta Compton. And it wasn't because the movie depicted what Dre did to Dee, rather the outcry came because the movie conveniently conveniently didn't include it. People who knew about the attack were appalled that the story of NWA was told without any mention of Dre's terrible wrongdoing. Finally, the internet's reaction to the movie prompted Dre to offer an apology. He released a statement addressing the women he's hurt. As I mentioned already, he actually hurt more women than just Dee. He was also physically aggressive with his ex-girlfriend and baby mama, Michel'le. He expressed that he felt deep regret for his actions, and that he knew it has had a long-lasting impact on the women's and his lives. He said that he was out of his right mind at the time. Interestingly, he included in the statement the notion that he had paid for it, which doesn't seem exactly true to me, since Dre's attack on Dee didn't seem to affect his career at all. He went on to reach new heights of superstardom after everything he did. He finished the statement by saying that what he did remains a blemish on who he is as a man, which I guess is kind of good to hear. At least he recognizes that what he did was truly wrong. But it would have been nice to hear that from him in the interview with Rolling Stone, or to see it addressed in Straight Outta Compton. It's a little sad that it took a public social media outcry to finally convince him to say something. It would have also been nice if he actually included Dee's and Michel'le's names in the apology, rather than just addressing the vaguely defined group of women he's hurt. Perhaps the worst part of Dee's story is that after Dre attacked her, she actually got blacklisted from the music industry. For some reason, nobody wanted to work with her anymore after what Dre did. This is totally shocking, but Dee even went on to become homeless. So Dre's acknowledgement that his actions have impacted the women's lives for years after the events seems to be very true. Not only did Dee suffer a horrible attack just for doing her job, but she also ended up losing that job and eventually having her life fall apart, all because of Dre, which is just awful. But I'm very curious to hear what you all think. Did you know about what Dre did to Dee? Do you think he should have done more to make up for the attack? Let me know in the comments below.